Brandon.
And we're a couple of theater nerds.
Who enjoy going to movies and enjoy talking about movies.
And also disagreeing about them. Because we like to disagree about the movies when we talk about the movies.
What's funny about this to me is that you wrote it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I remember
You
it.
wrote it, and then like the first few episodes where I had to read it from the script, you were like, oh.
Yeah, here's the thing. ADHD, guys. Like, what can I say? Like, just because I can give you brilliance doesn't mean it's going to be brilliant every time.
Oh, okay.
All right.
But anyway, so join us as we watch the movies, or as we watch them. And there I go.
Anyways, this is the Drive Home Reviews podcast. All right, welcome back to Drive Home Reviews, and today we are talking about the movie Renfield, which has the distinction of being one of the goriest movies I have seen in quite some time.
This movie is like, there's this new fad, and I don't think it's not new really.
It's not new,
but it's been building, and you see it in things like Violent Night, Cocaine Bear, and these are these movies that are just so incredibly fucking all over the place and just like balls to the wall, insane with everything. And this one people thought Violent Night was gory. This thing is like.
So what we have mentioned in previous episodes that Brandon is not a fan of the gore. And even I have my limits. Like, I will watch Quentin Tarantino, but when they rebooted The Evil Dead and the rain, like the blood was just pouring down like rain, like that was too much for me. So gore. And not just like blood.
What is it good for?
Not just blood, but also you are.
But also Al Gore.
No, focus.
Sorry.
Focus, my love. You are not a fan of toilet humor either.
No, I am not.
No, not throwing up, not.
It's got to be very specific. But yeah, I don't like watching people go to the toilet in a movie. I don't like seeing people sitting on the toilet. I don't like it's not a thing that I enjoy.
So is there times when grossness, toilet humor, gore is good for the story, actually moves the story forward? Like, have there been times when you saw that? Now, from my perspective, I don't mind toilet humor. I am a person who lives with celiac disease. Okay. My dad had colon cancer. Toilet humor was kind of a gallows humor, macabre type of thing that we just, thought was funny because it was something that we had to deal with. So when you have the scene like Dumb and Dumber, where Lloyd is stuck on the toilet with the laxative, we all lost our business watching that movie. Like the scene in Bridesmaids where they all get food poisoning at the bridal store. Like, legitimately, like, thought I was going to wet my pants laughing. Okay, so like, it doesn't take much for me to think that gore or toilet humor moves a movie forward, but what about you?
I am struggling. I can think of an instance when toilet humor moved a story forward. You're not going to like my answer.
Okay.
But I can think of one of the early episodes of South Park, where everybody had explosive diarrhea.
Okay.
And this was Matt Stone and Trey Parker directly addressing the criticism that their show was nothing but toilet humor, and basically saying, no, this is nothing but toilet humor. And so in that instance, but I say that I don't like watching that episode.
Okay.
So
Well,
so
and this is the ironic thing is that you love South Park.
I do. I love South Park. I love Family Guy. I love American Dad.
I do not like South Park. And one of the things that turned me off to South Park was the whole Mr. Hanky situation. Okay.
Okay, fair enough. I do think Mr. Hanky has his moments.
So, like, I can't, like, that was one of the things that I just could not do. I guess my limit, my hard limit is people touching the poop. Okay.
Okay.
So, which apparently you have no trouble with.
No, I didn't say that necessarily. Like they've done a couple of episodes where with Mr. Hanky, where I'm just like, oh, okay, no. And even if I like the episode, there are parts that I'm just like, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I've just never been a fan of shit humor, of vomit humor. I don't like watching people throw up. I
Okay, what
just
about something like Stand By Me, where they have the scene at the pie eating contest?
yeah, no, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of it. It's just not something I like seeing. It's not something I like thinking about. It's not something I like doing. So watching other characters vomit and stuff is not like me going, "Yay!"
You heard it here first, folks. Brandon Lawrence, adamantly against body fluids.
In my humor, in my humor. And again, I'm sure that if I really think about it, probably once we're done recording, I'll think of 20 different examples that prove me wrong. I'm sure there are exceptions to that rule. I'm sure there are things I've watched where I'm like, oh, okay, that fart joke. Fart jokes I don't necessarily mind.
Right.
Fart jokes are okay. But, where I'm like, oh, that person getting doused in shit, it was hilarious. And it's like, I cannot think of really any.
What franchise that now that you just said that, what is it that they always is it Back to the Future where he always lands in manure?
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't like that either, huh?
I mean, I didn't like Back to the Future, so I mean,
Oh,
yeah, I know that's going to
we're
get
gonna
me
get
that's
controversial
going to get
here.
me hate mail from people. I never thought Back to the Future was that good.
So tell me, what is the line for you? Is it an automatic no, I can't endorse this movie if there's like vomit or
I don't know. I don't think there is a hard line. I think it is a case by case, film by film, or show by show, uh, reevaluation. Do I think that everything surrounding it was good enough that I can either fight my way through that one scene or fast forward through it or whatever, or is it something where, okay, here's a good example, maybe not the best example, but we just last episode we're talking about the Scream franchise.
right?
Well, I'm going to talk about its immediate equivalent, the Scary Movie franchise.
Oh gosh.
um, where the very first Scary Movie had some gross out humor in it, but it also had some other funny things in it that I could enjoy. Whereas the second Scary Movie, because they weren't really planning on there being a second Scary Movie, and kind of going back to what we were talking about last time, the second Scary Movie is almost entirely gross out humor. And in that there's two funny lines in that movie that I can remember, but they're not worth me fighting through all of that other disgusting stuff. Whereas the first Scary Movie, I can still watch and enjoy a lot of the bits and either zip past or ignore the more gross out humor aspect that I wasn't a fan of.
So does it make a difference if it's a comedy versus like a drama? Because I think of something like A Good Person where she's going through withdrawal and she's throwing up.
I think it does, because I think even in that, um, I really didn't need to see her throwing up, but it was more that's part of what happens
Right.
in withdrawal. And I don't feel it was gratuitous. Like she didn't throw up for a solid 2 minutes,
Okay.
or something. We didn't, she didn't spew all over, her birthday party and everybody's getting covered in it,
Oh,
kind of thing. You know, it was there's the scene that's part of what happens. It's done, and we can kind of move on.
right.
You know, I think that does make a difference. But again, I can't say there's a hard line.
So it's just going to be a case by case basis.
Yeah, it is.
Now, I will say there are moments when like it gets to be too much for me, and I am cautious of those because our youngest, she is sensitive
She's
to
very
all
sensitive
like
to it.
any gore, any she has to get an excuse to get out of, frog dissection.
Well,
You
even
know?
like even when we watched last year and we watched the Weird Al biopic, and there's that scene where his father like beats up the accordion salesman.
Right.
She couldn't handle that.
Right. So yeah, there like I think that there's it just depends on each movie case by case.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know?
Oh, okay. Here's another good example. Going back to Violent Night, like one of the first things that happened in there is Santa Claus vomits in the sled and hits a woman in the face. I fucking hated that. It was too much, but I love the rest of that movie. I love the movie as a whole.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. So you can look past things if the rest of the movie is quality enough.
Yes.
So one of the comparisons as we watch Renfield was Quentin Tarantino. Um, I'm going to guess you're not a Tarantino guy.
I'm not a Tarantino guy, and but not because of the gore. I'll be honest. I'm saying all the controversial shit. That's right, folks. It is controversy day. On I feel Quentin Tarantino is one of the most overrated directors and writers in history. Everybody just is. How explicit can I get on our podcast? I never used to worry about it with the YouTube. Like people just drop to their knees and suck him off for all of his movies. And I've seen Pulp Fiction. I saw the first Kill Bill, and I saw a little bit of Inglourious Bastards, and was like, "What the fuck is everybody just gushing all over? This is ridiculous."
I am not a Quentin Tarantino stan. I'm not big on Inglorious Bastards. I'm not big on From Dusk Till Dawn. And I don't even know that I've ever watched Reservoir Dogs all the way through. But I do like Pulp Fiction. I like Jackie Brown. I liked oh gosh, what was the other one I was just thinking? Oh, I liked the Kill Bill series. I liked Kill Bill 1 and 2. But that may have been more to do with Uma Thurman and all of the other lovely ladies kicking ass rather than, I mean, you got to remember at that point in time, you don't really get female superheroes. So a team of female assassins is pretty kick ass.
I mean, that's fair.
So, but he is really well known for taking the gore to the next level.
Yeah, and but my distaste of his films is not because of the gore.
Okay.
It's because I just don't like his movies. I just think he's more pompous than he is insightful.
Now, going the other way, I know you're a big Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah.
And Clerks and the Clerks movies in particular have some very graphic toilet humor. But you're okay with that.
I can overlook it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, fair, good example. One of my all-time favorite movies is Dogma.
Right.
The Kevin Smith film. I think that is such an insightful, well-written, just
interesting.
It is a great, great movie. But there's that whole thing with the shit demon.
Oh, God.
Which I fast forward through every time.
Forgot about
because
that.
I find it disgusting. So, but I can overlook that scene, or I can skip that scene and move on because the rest of the movie is so engaging,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different tolerance level. Everybody has a different threshold. So I'm not. I think it's important to state this because I it's so easy to fall into this, and I don't want the Love and Tyranny people coming after me again. If you like gore, if you like toilet humor, if you like Quentin Tarantino, or anybody else, that is fine and dandy. Fine and dandy. I am not sitting here saying that my views are the only ones or the right ones. I'm saying that is how I feel. If you like them, then mazel tov. Enjoy.
Well, let's get into it and see if the good of the movie outweighed the bad of the gore. So,
Well, but okay, before we move on, maybe I should clarify that. When it comes to gore, like something like this, the gore is so over the top. It's so
well, explain that to us in the review section,
okay.
sir.
Okay.
All right. So come back after the break and we'll talk about Renfield.
We need to get sponsors. And we're back, and that commercial is brought to you by Yawn. If you like making things, make it with Yawn. There, I feel like our breaks are justified now.
Oh, goodness gracious. And we just settled on yarn because of my giant pile of
Because it's like right here.
to be
We
crocheted
Kaiser
yarn.
Sosate it.
So, anyways, let's talk Renfield. So this is a movie about Dracula, but not told from Dracula's perspective, told from the perspective of his servant Renfield, the bug-eating fella.
Familiar.
And as you were saying in the last episode, this was initially meant to be part of a franchise.
This film has some interesting backstory before we get into it. So yeah, from the research we did, we do research here. You may not think we do, but we do research. In that we do quick internet searches, or she does.
Thanks, Wikipedia.
Yeah. But yes, apparently, from what you discovered, the original concept for this movie was supposed to be part of Universal's aborted Dark Universe franchise that they were planning to start to combat the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They released that god-awful Tom Cruise Mummy movie, and then the whole thing went...
Part of that was that they were trying to not lose those properties.
Yeah.
Because if you don't use the properties within a certain amount of time, then the trademark, I guess.
Well, I think with them, when this is getting off on a whole other rant, I think with them it's kind of the same thing with Disney, is that Disney doesn't own Snow White, because that story's in the public domain. They own their version of it.
Right.
The dress, the dwarves, and I think that's kind of the same thing with things like the Invisible Man, the Mummy, Dracula, Frankenstein,
Right.
the Wolf Man. I think the only one they out and out created was the creature from the Black Lagoon. But I think all the other ones, it's you could make a million movies called Frankenstein. People have.
Right, because that's property that's owned by,
Yeah, that's public domain, I think, at this point. But their version of it, and Universal was so known for the standards of those horror movies. Bela Lugosi as Dracula, Boris Karloff as the monster, Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. They were so known for it that those have kind of become synonymous with their studio.
Right. So this was originally meant to be part of that world, but the Mummy was like a total flop.
It was garbage.
So it got put on the back shelf, and then Robert Kirkman, who created The Walking Dead, kind of was like, hey, what if we really lean into the comedy of this, rather than trying to take it all seriously? Because come on, this is a guy that eats bugs and is servant to Dracula.
Now,
Like,
before we get into this, I wanna point this out. So you can take this either as a redefinition of a film from a failed franchise, or as my best friend Matt pointed out to me, you could look at it as the longest time between an original movie and a direct sequel ever. If you think of it as a direct sequel to the original Dracula, it's like 91 years
right.
between the two movies.
Yeah, 1931
Yep,
was when Dracula came out.
yep.
So, yeah. Yeah, 92 years.
Which I don't know if that theory holds up because there were several direct sequels to that Dracula movie. Anyway,
Anyways, yes. So we have Renfield. And they really do take a comedic turn with it. What is fascinating about this movie is that if you look at one aspect of this movie, it is a kind of sweet coming of age, funny, um the guy discovering who he is and getting out of a toxic relationship kind of situation. If you look at a different aspect of it, it is the freaking Matrix done by Quentin Tarantino. And if you look at a different aspect of it, it's freaking Scarface with more gore. Like, and then there is the horror overlay to the whole thing. Like, this is a lot of different ideas kind of crammed into one. So the question is, does it work?
ah, and that's I think where we're gonna have a little bit of a disagreement.
So our Renfield is played by Nicholas Holt. Okay.
Who, as we said, watching it, I'm so used to seeing him do American accents
Right.
that I forget he's British.
Yes.
And so that when I see him in a movie using his British accent, it always sounds fake at first.
Well, what's funny too is that he is going to be in the reboot of Nosferatu.
Yeah.
But not playing Renfield in that. So, then of course Nicolas Cage's Dracula, which has got to be some of the best casting that I've ever seen. Aquafina,
Who is in everything.
yeah.
She's like the freaking Rock. Like, how
Mhm.
many movies is Aquafina just in?
And then Shore Agdashlu, the Iranian Persian actress who is amazing and has the most distinctive voice
She
of
does.
like any actress. Ben Schwartz, Parks and Rec fame, and also voice of Sonic, but like he will always be John Ralphio to me. Is playing our bad guy mobster fella there, and then we have a lot of really good bit characters: Jenna Cannell, Bess Rouse, Camille Shen, but also Adrian Martinez as Aquafina's partner. And what I think is maybe one of the best comedic roles in this whole movie, Brandon Scott Jones is the leader of his toxic relationship group.
Yes.
He has got like that, the comic timing that Brandon Scott Jones has in this is just perfect.
He is so good.
Yes.
And I loved all of the stuff with the group.
Yeah.
I loved everything. I loved he was amazing.
Right.
Like one of the laugh out loud funny moments of this is when Renfield's in there and he's talking about and if I don't help my master, he can't achieve full power. And the leader of it's like, yes, that's brilliant. That's so weird. Why would you phrase it like that?
My God, yes, I can't handle
And then
that.
it was such a quick turnaround. It was so
It was great.
so good.
And then, like the other members, like there's this bit that Carol can't finish.
Yeah,
or
like
like
every
and-
time she's having a breakthrough, Renfield bursting. It's like, oh well, I guess fuck Carol then.
Yeah. So yeah, just like the stuff with the group was just inspired.
You know what another really funny bit was, and maybe this is my South Park fan thing coming out, is the cop Kyle, who they're just like he was like, yo, fuck you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, everything was like, fuck you, Kyle. It was just like it was. My South Park fan just laughed at that.
So, but then we have the storyline with Aquafina versus the I think Bella Francesca family, or no, the Tobos.
The Lobos.
Lobos. Sorry. Yes, I was gonna get it eventually. The Lobos. Um,
I like how during the movie she knows so much. Rebecca knows so much. And she loves sharing that. But I don't think you know that I know things.
I
Because
know.
I think you lean over to me one time, like, Lobo means wolf. That's why they have wolves. I was like, yes, I believe it or not, I comprehended that. But it's just the way you said it, like, Lobo means wolf, you know.
It's like the teacher part of
Yes.
me, like
The
so.
teacher mother part of you.
But yeah, so we've got, Shoria Agdashlu is playing Bella. That's where the Bella Francesca comes in. Bella Francesca Lobo, who's the head of the crime family. Ben Schwartz is her son. And then like so it's this like this rivalry between Aquafina
It's the
because
whole you killed my father
yes.
and I'm gonna bring you down, but the whole police force is corrupt kind of. I mean, you've seen these,
And then you've got Dracula, who is trying to recover, but he needs innocent victims. And Renfield is struggling with, like, he doesn't want to bring him any more victims anymore. And so, like, you've got basically three different movies going on that are meshing into
Yeah.
one movie. So, all right. Go ahead, spill your beans.
I think that's part of the fun of this movie, but I also think it's its biggest detriment.
Okay.
Because if you asked me after we watched this, did you have fun watching that movie? The answer is yes. I had a lot of fun. And it's
You sound so depressed about it, though.
well, I mean,
yes, I had fun.
I do, honestly, and that's because I have to add the caveat that I think I would have had more fun if the movie had picked a lane and stayed in it. I think this movie was at its best when it was the story of when you were using it as a metaphor for a toxic relationship, a codependent relationship, and the stuff with the group, the scene where Dracula is confronting Renfield in his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
All of that was like really, it was funny, it was insightful, it was really clever and well done.
So you would have just left out the whole part with Aquafina.
Or used her in a different way. Because it's like you had this great high concept comedy that I think you could have milked for an entire movie. And then there's all this batshit insane uber gory fight scenes going on, and it I can't say that there was a tonal shift in it because it all felt like it belonged in the same world, but it's like, what movie are we making here? What story are we telling?
See, and I think to me that was kind of the pleasure of it, was that it was like, what is this movie? And all of these things I felt like they intersected more cleanly than you did. I felt like the the stuff with Aquafina and Lobo tied in really well into this story of Renfield's looking for himself. And Aquafina's character is the one who kind of helps him along that pathway. They kind of help each other kind of move forward from the places that they're at. So I feel like it tied all together. I felt like it was a good batshit crazy, yes, but not in a bad way.
And here's the thing, I'm not saying it wasn't a good, fun movie. What I'm saying is that I feel like there was a much better movie buried in it that I wanted more of that.
Okay.
And because batshit crazy movies have their place. They, like I said, I've mentioned it twice. I loved Violent Night, and that's a batshit crazy movie.
Okay, but would you have had, like, you say you wanted more of that? Would more of it have been too treacly? Would it
I
have
don't
been
think
too
so.
much?
I think there was I think with the right, and they obviously had some smart writers, and they obviously had some very good actors um going in. I think you could have done a lot, and you could have gotten a lot of mileage
Hmm,
from this. From just there's a lot of things that they kind of sped through to get to the next batshit crazy part. You know, Renfield deciding I'm not gonna serve Dracula anymore. That just kind of happened,
no, he had been there
and
for quite a bit.
and I think we could have explored that a little bit more. I think
See,
there's
I think our fundamental difference right here, it comes from, our background in watching horror movies and things like that. Because Robert Kirkman and The Walking Dead, that was a comic book. And then it got turned into the show. And it retained a lot of those comic booky type styles. And the same thing with like the what's his name? I want to say Frank Capra, but it's not Frank Miller, like Sin City type of thing, where you have it's retaining some of the comic bookiness, and I think that that's kind of what they did here. It
I
was a
think
very comic booky
I
type of
think that's what
movie.
they were going for, but I don't think it landed. I think I commented on the red and green lighting.
Right.
And yeah, obviously, like you said, it was there to try to give it a very stylized
Hmm.
look, and like you say, to make it look like a comic book. But all it succeeded in doing for me was making the film look flat. The color palette didn't work. It didn't pop.
See, I think the flatness of it translated for me because of it being like a graphic novel. I think it made it more artistic. I like that was.
I I would respectfully disagree.
Well, that's fine. Make your own charcuterie board.
Damn.
But no, like I do, and that was something I did enjoy about The Walking Dead, and I did enjoy about the Frank Miller movies, like the 300 and Sin City, is that you have a surrealness that's not exactly true to nature, and that, I mean, really with um the concept, I'm not sure in Dracula, does he eat the bug and then get power normally?
No,
If that he just eats bugs.
yeah, he just eats bugs. It's basically just the thing that he does.
But like with this whole concept, like he eats a bug and he gets the superpower, like it really adds kind of a fun layer to it. So I don't know. I did not mind the over the top batshit craziness of it. Like the point where like he rips off a guy's arms and then uses them as weapons. Like that was
And
nuts.
again, I think I want to make sure I'm stating this. I did not mind the batshit craziness of it. It was fun,
But you felt like it should have been two different
but
movies.
I felt like there were two different movies there, and the one I found more interesting and I wanted to spend more time with was the story of Renfield and the toxic relationship, which sounds like a very weird children's book,
Where I feel in a toxic
you know.
relationship.
But I
I would read that book.
it's not to say that I didn't enjoy the batshit craziness of it. It's not to say that it wasn't a fun movie. It's to say I think there was a much better movie hidden in there. Now, there's still stuff about this I like. One of the things I truly love, because I am a big fan of the original Universal horror movies, the Universal monster films. I love how in the beginning, when Renfield is giving the narration, kind of bring us up to speed, they put Nicholas Holt and Nicolas
Yes.
Cage into the Bela Lugosi
Yes.
movie.
That was
It,
great.
and it was so well done.
Yeah, like it wasn't notice, like it did not look like bad Photoshop at all.
No, it looked, or it did enough that you kind of get okay what they're doing, but like they mimicked the movements, the makeup, the hair.
Right.
It was just incredibly well done. And again, as a lover of those movies, I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
I have to praise the special effects in this too.
Mm.
Like especially Nicolas Cage's makeup.
Oh yeah, that's some great makeup.
Oh, it was nuts. Like because he keeps getting destroyed in different ways, and so he has all of these different injuries, and like they just did a great job with the special effects.
Yeah.
So and the settings, like the Dracula's lair was just so creepy, and then Renfield's apartment was so cheerful.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed the colors and the look of this movie.
So we've talked all about that. What about the performances? We really haven't talked about the.
So I know you're not a fan of the X-Men movies that he was in, but
I was okay with First Class.
I liked Nicholas Hoult as Hank McCoy. Like Beast is my favorite X-Men character, and I really enjoyed Nicholas Hoult as Beast. And I think that he did a really good job in this too. He really does a good job of writing that line between superhero and awkward nerdy guy. Like he has a sweet spot right in there. Nicolas Cage was
Nicolas Cage.
like, I mean, Nicolas Cage might be Dracula.
See, now that's kind of an interesting thing. And just I think when we'll take a quick break and give you another word from Yarn before we come back and talk a little bit about where does Nicolas Cage's performance fall in the pantheon of Draculas?
Okay.
Because there's been a lot of Draculas.
Okay.
So
all right, so let's take a break and listen to a little tune about Yarn. We hope you enjoyed that imaginary tune about Yarn.
Gee, Mom, this sweater is great. What'd you make it out of? Well, honey, I made it out of yarn. That's right, yarn. Purple yarn, yellow yarn, orange yarn, green yarn. Those are the colors of yarn. Buy yarn. Anyway.
Yes, I am. I'm making a rainbow something, so all of the colors were there.
I just feel like we need to justify those breaks.
Anyways.
So the question posed before we went to break was Nicolas Cage as Dracula, and where does his performance fall in the pantheon of Draculas?
I honestly, okay, so I'm not going to be as good at this as you, because you are actually a lot more into the classic monster movies than I am. I think Bela Lugosi set the bar for Draculas.
Definitely.
I think the guy that they had play Dracula in Buffy was pretty decent. I don't know who that was.
I don't know who that was either.
And I have a feeling I know who you're going to say is above Nicolas Cage, but I really think Nicolas Cage is up there.
Who do you think?
No, you go ahead.
No, I want to know who you think.
Was it Leslie Nielsen who
No.
played in Dracula Dead and Loving It?
He was, but that's not my. I think there are two types of Dracula performances.
Okay.
I think there is the over-the-top kind of Nicolas Cage Dracula. And I think a lot of them, some might call it stylized. I feel like that was the Gary Oldman portrayal, was a very stylized, over-the-top Dracula.
Right.
And then there is the Bela Lugosi Dracula, the suave, sophisticated, like almost Gomez Addams kind of. And that's kind of
not that he's super handsome, but that he's.
But that there is a charm and a sex appeal, and yet a danger.
Right.
So obviously Bela Lugosi is, or not Bela. Yeah, Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
is the premier Dracula. But you know who does not get a lot of credit for his portrayal of Dracula? Duncan Rager.
Okay.
You might know him best as Beverly Crusher's ghost lover.
Okay, but where was he Dracula?
He played Dracula in the Monster Squad,
Oh my
and he
god.
was so good.
Yeah, but that I've blocked that movie out.
Well, I'm sorry for you because that is not only a great 80s movie, but that is probably one of the best Dracula performances because he is very much in that Bela Lugosi vein, that suave. I don't have to chase after you. I don't have to run because I know I'm going to get you. That dangerous, and yet when he gets mad, it's scary. Like, I think he is an underrated Dracula.
Can I tell you honestly though, I have a problem with Draculas that are too white.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Like, I think that there's some Draculas that are just too white, and he would have been Eastern European, Slavic. He would have looked more like my coloring than he would be, you know, Beverly Crusher's Ghost Lover. So yeah,
He
um,
all, he also might have the distinction of having nailed both Beverly Crusher and Kira Nerys. So
that's right, because he was
he
also.
was one of her boring boyfriends too.
Shit, the most boring boyfriends. Anyways, but I I have a whole section of movies that I just block out or just like my brain won't let me enjoy because they were some of my ex-husband's favorites.
Mm.
So, and unfortunately, Monster Squad isn't there.
We're gonna have to like.
No, you just watch it when I'm not around. Not a big deal.
I mean,
Anyway,
because yeah, but like it or not, he was one of the best Draculas. Now I liked Nicolas Cage's Dracula, but it was one of the more over the top because that's Nicolas freaking Cage.
I think though that he did have some like when the problem is for the majority of the movie he's in the recovery monstery phase.
Yeah,
Now, when he's not in that phase, when he is Mr. Smoothie, he was pretty smooth.
yeah. No, I agree.
So I think he did a great job. I think he was really up there.
I think he did a great job for this movie.
Right.
He was the Dracula this movie needed.
So what about the other characters? We had Shorey Agdashlu. I think she did a great job as I believe her as a mafia boss.
She is one of the most underrated actors.
I think so too.
She's a character actor, another Star Trek alumni.
She was in Law and Order SVU too.
Yeah, so
And so was there was a couple Law and Order
she
guys.
played Bashir's mother. But
her voice is
yeah,
so beautiful.
And she has such screen presence that anything she's in, she just, even when she's playing a softer spoken character, she just steals the screen.
Yes.
She's that damn good.
And we were talking about this. There's something about her features that she looks very much like the females on my mom's side of the family. And I could just picture her at a family reunion. So there's something about her presence on screen that is very comforting to me. I just really like Shorey Agdashlu.
Yeah, I do too.
What about Ben Schwartz? Now you're not a Parks and Rec guy. You've been dragged into Parks and Rec because we binge it every year. How do you think he did in that character of Little Lobo?
I thought he was fine.
Yeah.
I
think
it's so hard. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think there is a very specific type of character he is just great at playing. And it's this smarmy kind of rich guy who's too big for his britches.
Okay. And this is again where we're probably going to differ greatly. I think it's really hard for me to kind of judge some of those other trickle down characters who weren't because him, Aquafina, her sister, they were very generic characters. Just you've seen their character types in a million different movies, and I don't feel like any of them did anything much different than any of the actors preceding them did in those kind of movies.
I would have to agree with you on the Aquafina part. I would probably say that she was one of the least impressive roles. I think she's done some great stuff, and I think she can be really sparkling, and she just didn't sparkle in this.
I do not hate Aquafina.
Well, that's nice of you to
but
say.
I have never been particularly impressed by her.
I'm gonna make you a T-shirt that says, "I do not hate
Well,
Aquafina."
because I want it understood because there are actors I absolutely hate
Right.
and can't stand seeing. She's not one of them, but I've never been particularly impressed by her.
See, I've liked her. No, you liked her in The Funeral.
The Funeral?
Not The Funeral. What was it? It's a movie about a funeral.
I I'm not sure what we're talking about.
I'll have to remember what it is.
Yes.
But like I like her. I think she's funny. I think she's got a good presence. I think she's kind of versatile. Um, but she just like there was I don't know if she was taking it too seriously or
I don't think
what.
she's that versatile, to be honest.
Sorry, I'm just I'm messing with you. But yeah, she wasn't doing it for me in this. The like I said before, the big characters were blowing it out of the water.
Yeah, because they were just like, her partner was
Adrian
was
Martinez, he's
yeah,
so
he
funny.
was pretty funny. Again, everybody in the support group
Oh yeah,
was really great.
I
But
could like Brandon Scott Jones. Like
yeah.
he's not gotten a lot of big parts, but like he has kind of killed it in all of his
Yeah,
roles. The Farewell is the movie I was thinking of.
I
I know we have talked. Never mind.
I do not remember.
Okay.
'Cause I know I watched and reviewed The Farewell, but I don't remember liking it. So, but
Anyways,
anyway, um, but yeah, so
so two separate movies, and you didn't like the trickle down characters. Any other last thoughts?
not really. And I guess my is just to reiterate what I've said before is that it's a good time. It's a fun movie.
Right.
It's not. I didn't hate it. It's even sitting here talking about it, even with the objections I had, it was still something I'd probably watch again. But I just feel like there was for some folks, I guess it's okay to kind of get a little bit of something and or get a variety of things, I guess, like a variety pack. But when I see a movie that has a really interesting premise or a really a concept that has the ability to stretch and really delve deep and have more fun, and it doesn't do that, it just bugs me.
I think it just had fun in a different way than you wanted it to.
And fair enough. But I think this could have been a great movie as opposed to a good, decent movie.
Do you know, I really do think the part of the batshit crazy part of this movie that I really enjoyed is the concept that we have so much going on in the world right now that feels like we're powerless against. And no matter what we do, the bullies keep coming at us. And I just, every once in a while, it's just so nice to see something where the bullies just get what they deserve.
I can't disagree with that. Again, Violent Night.
Right.
Again, so I can't disagree with that assessment.
All right. So, what are you going to grade this as?
That's a tough question. That's a tough question for me. Because I feel like if I go one way, I'm being too harsh. If I go another way, I'm being too generous. So I'm going to grade this one a B minus. And the reason I graded B minus is because there is a lot of creativity on display here. There's a lot of interesting ideas on display here. There's some really good performances on display here. And again, a fun movie when all is said and done. There's a part of me that wants to knock it down to a C plus, but I'm gonna be a little nicer to it than that.
I think I go A minus. I like there was some parts that needed polishing up. Like I said, they there was just something missing from Aquafina's performance. I thought it was fine, but it wasn't what it could have been. But I enjoyed this movie a lot. I enjoyed the story behind it. I loved what it had to say about an actual social issue and personal issues of toxic relationships.
See, I did too. I really loved that.
So, like, I really think this one was a winner.
All
Mhm.
right. So, so I guess go watch it and figure it out for yourself. What do you expect us to do? All the thinking for you? Anyway, no. So yeah, so there you go. That's one of the reasons I love doing these with you is two people, two different opinions.
Mhm.
So, all right. So there you go. Thank you, my love. That's another episode. We have a list of films that we are looking to tackle and try to get some stockpiled. And of course, we've got big releases like Guardians of the Galaxy. So
Yes.
stuff's coming. And we're,
Summer movies are coming out.
yep. So, so yeah. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming along. We'll see you next time.
I
And
think if you try, you can get about 5 more so's in there.
so I know, right? That's the problem with doing shit like this unscripted, as you did, and unedited. Like we don't edit these things; we just slap them. We're not like one of these professionals that have like outtakes. Like this is here it is, first take, one take wonder. Here we go. Anyway, thank you for joining us. I didn't say so. I almost did. We're gonna do a swear jar with that. I'm like, kids every time. Anywho,
I'm gonna make you put it in the swear jar every time your phone goes off while we're podcasting.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming along. And as always, drive safe, and we will see you at the movie.